Hi, my name is Nathan, and today we're going to do a full story review of The Army of Darkness, 1979, issues number 1 through 5, the full story, brought to you by Rated Comics. Timestamps will be in description if you wish to go from issue to issue. Also, link in description if you wish to purchase any of the comic books in this review. Support the art, support the industry. Last but not least, if you like the content we're throwing up, you know what to do. Don't be shy and don't be stingy. Here at Rated Comics, we do awesome comic book reviews, comic book related content with the occasional comic book giveaway. With that being said, let's get to it. In this issue, we start off with the South Bronx of New York, 1979. We get a narration of we were at war for the streets of New York. The cops were the only thing standing in our way, but that is about to change. Every borough had its crew, and each had its distinctive own ways. I know this says it's 1979, but to me, they look like 80s rock, 80s vibe. That's what it feels like to me. And then you got everyone is coming together, and the idea was if we're gonna do this, it's better to do it together instead of doing it separately. That way, the fuzz could not stop us. And then we see Phibia's girlfriend talking to him like, how do you know this isn't a setup? And Phibia tells Lilith, his girlfriend, stop worrying about it. The word got straight from Ace himself. So now we see Ace on top of a building. Brothers and sisters, you know me, Ace, the leader of the Dominoes. And we're here to take over the streets of New York. Can you dig it? The crowd goes crazy until they are interrupted. Now, there are no objections. I'm gonna run down the plan. We have an objection. And they're like, Domino's like, okay, and who are you exactly? We are the Warlocks, and this brother is holding I can't think of the name of that book, but I know that book is from the Evil Dead movie, the Necronomicon or something like that. And if you guys butcher me in the comment section, I apologize, but I know that book. It's been a while since I watched the Evil Dead or Army of Darkness or whatnot. Now the Warlocks are holding this book, and we all know this book is bad news. And what they do is he uses this book to turn him into like this meat suit without the crock pit, evil style, you know what I mean? And everyone goes bananas, and they're like, oh, and the Warlocks are like, guess what? Now the streets of New York will be mine because they got this book and the power to do so. Back in Washington, 2021, we see Ash getting interviewed for a lumber job, and he's answering his questions very truthfully. You know, the brother's asking him, what'd you do before? Well, I'm a freelancer, like Postmates, Uber, talk to me. Nah, like with demons. Well, I guess it's not easy, but you got tools like the saw still in his hand, the shotgun is nearby, and the guy's looking at him like, well, I guess, and good news is, you won't be forgetting your equipment at home. So he sees what Ash is working with, cuts off a tree, and hires him for the job. And Ash is just happy to finally get a real job, settle down, and have some kind of normalcy here. Maybe have some kids in the cable TV. Ash sees something's up, and this magical portal opens, and he knows what it is. Not again. And he tells his boss, Mr. Richardson, I'm gonna need a few days off. And he goes into the portal. Now, back in the streets of New York, we see the Warlocks, and that's kind of a funny moment where his sidekick's like, okay, why do we always walk in the middle of the street? I mean, there is a sidewalk, you know? In order to run the streets, you have to look the part. Now, their authority gets tested, and and the cops on the horse like, haven't you punctured over the sidewalk before? And Warlock is like, hey, you know what? You will bow down to me, and you know, you don't test cops like that. Look at that look. You can tell by that look. They're like, oh, we gonna show you. So he gets off the horse, and it's like, look, guys, I think it's time you learn to respect authority. And the Warlock's like, I think it's time you learn to respect your new ruler, and turns him into meat crock pit soup that's just bloody. So now Phibia and Lilith and the gang, they look half dead, but they're just having this argument like, who are these people? How are we gonna take them down? What are they all about, and where are they from? We are from the streets of New York, and they can't be from here because we would have heard of them by now. So meanwhile, we see this portal opens up, and it's our boy Ash coming down, falling down. He's like, oh man, and he remembers or just knows where he's at. I know that smell. I'm in the Bronx, and from the looks of it, it's the 70s. And these half-dead people are like, stay still, man. They're thinking, because they saw magical powers from the Warlocks by the power of this book, but they didn't know it was through the power of that book, or the book was the power source. They think Ash has something to do with this. So they take him in, and they confiscate, and they interrogate him, put him in shelter, put him in the vacancy, and Ash is getting all he has his his comebacks and his quick wit and lips, and it's just like, okay, well, you're gonna take me to the vacancy? Cool. And then when he gets there, he's like, well, when I was thinking, when you guys had a place to stay, I had something else in mind. I didn't look at this torture and all this kind of stuff. And Lilith is like, you know, this guy, I'm starting to think this guy is not the brightest bulb in the box, but it's kind of cute though. My boy Ash. So they question him. Where are the warlocks hiding? Tell me, or I'm thinking about cutting you open with your own chainsaw. Ash is like, okay, that's kind of, you know, that's kind of weird. That's kind of odd. And look, I get it, but I'm not with him. You guys gotta let me go. You don't understand. It's the power of this book, and they just don't seem to get it. But meanwhile, the Deadites come in, and it's an all-out attack. And I gotta leave a little meat on the bone because this book picks up fast, picks up the pace great, very entertaining. It's just you get hit with a little bit with an intro, and just I absolutely love the pace in this book. And all I gotta say, it's an interesting way to end this book, and I gotta say, it's a funny way of how this book ends it with police officers and an interesting way of Miranda rights. With that being said, I thought this book was a perfect 10 and definitely worth it to add to your comic book collection, whether it be for great storytelling. Even though it's been a while since I've seen Evil Dead and Army of Darkness, it does bring back a little bit of nostalgia. With that being said, in this issue, we start off in Central Park with the Warlocks walking around looking all tough and cool with their leather jackets and the Necronomicon book. Bishop is about to bring the world to its knees with this book. He has the power. He knows it. And then one of the crew members interrupts and is like, hey, Bishop, how many times I have to tell you? Never interrupt me while I'm doing my thing. And then the crew member is like, I know. I'm not a mind reader, dude, but you know what? We're hungry. I'm sorry. It's just a really cool way to suck the toad out the moon. It's like, we're about to take over the world. But before we do, we're hungry. No, I'm sorry. I think it's the most hilarious opening in my personal opinion. And this pisses off Bishop, where he gets fiery hands from the power of the Necronomicon book. And he's like, dude, I'm on the verge of taking over the world, and all you can think about is food? Well, when you put it like that, I can see why you're flustered. But don't get caught up in all your emotions, man. Like, the world can wait. I just want a slice of Baronis. That can't wait. So meanwhile, we get the Brooklyn Dodgers with baseball bats about to give him an ambush, not knowing the power that Bishop has. And Bishop's like, okay, you guys are about to pitch out a shutout? I love that kind of good game. And then the Brooklyn Dodgers like, I don't think you understand the gravity of your situation. So, okay, well, let's get going. So right before they're about to give him a crack, now Bishop gets the power from the book, and they're like, what are you doing with your hands? His hands start to flare up, getting fired. He's like, this is power beyond comprehension, brought to you by Necronomicon book. And then he just turns all their heads into brain soup. Ugh. I mean, then again, take it all in. You still want to eat after seeing all that, but then again, that looks like a whole lot of tomato sauce to go in your slice of pie. Back with Ash, he's dealing with all these mini police Deadite officers, and they're crawling all over his face. Lilith, she's swiping them away. She's telling them to stop. And why you gotta put that aerial view like that? I guess to highlight how small the Deadites are, right? Wink. Ash is like, get off of me! He steps back and accidentally crushes the officer. I'm sorry, this book has the right balance of dark comedy and humor and horror and violence. That's just my opinion right there. And as he steps on the cop, he's like, oh, I have an idea. Then he just starts stomping cops like roaches. Hey, that's disgusting. But not as disgusting as crushing cops. And then Lilith's like, Ash, help me. And then now these cops are like enveloping her, so he gets them off of her. He shakes them off. I didn't know that girl had cake like that. So now they're squishing and crunching and squashing and I think this is a really fun opening of this book. And now Lilith is like, oh man, this is disgusting. And Ash, Ben has charm, and he always finds every situation to clap back and have something funny to say. And he tells her, coming from someone like that dresses like a zombie like you, it must be really disgusting for you to call this disgusting. Now their leader is dead, Fibia, which is Lilith's boyfriend and Lilith's man. And Ash is like, okay, tender moment here. I gotta leave. It was great meeting you guys, but I got a book to track down. And Lilith is like, wait, you can't go. You know, the Warlocks are gonna wipe out every gang in New York, including us, if you don't help. And they're like, yeah, Ash, she's right. If you need to find that magic book, the Necronomicon, we need a leader and you need a crew. So they make a pretty compelling argument with Ash to stay and also let them help out. And also, I think this girl's catching feelings after watching Ash do his thing and save her in the heat of the battle. Now she's like, oh no, I can give you more than one reason to stay. So Ash is like, okay, let's go kick some butt. You know, let's do this. And then one of the crew members was like, shouldn't we move Phibia's body? She's like, yeah, we will. Don't worry about it. Nah, she's in her feelings right now with Ash. And hey, all right. So now, meanwhile, back at Central Park, I don't know who this Hungry Man, we're just going to call him Hungry Man, tells Bishop, we got to get out of here. Cops engulf them, surround them, surrender, freeze, we're taking you in. No, you're not. Die. The power of the Necronomicon book just melts you into soup, meat soup, blood soup, whatever you want to call it. That is not the kind of stuff you want to eat at Golden Corral. Then Bishop's like, okay, now we can eat. Hungry now? Happy? Yeah, we happy. As we're walking and discussing, Lilith asks Ash, can I ask you something? And Ash is like, hey, you can ask me anything. You get it, Ash? But with ask, she's like, I get it. So she's like, okay, what's with all the warlocks having this magical power with the books? And Ash is like, okay, but since I'm the leader, I'll fill you in. I've been transported through time, and it started in the Middle Ages, just keeps on going. The only thing that gets me back to my time is that book. It has some kind of power, and it always seems to fall in the hands of the bad guy. So I don't know how the book chose him, but it did. So Lilith is like, oh, wow. Now she's in this flirty mood, emotion. She's asking Ash, are you a hero? Ash is like, I guess I am. And she's like, well, and Ash is like, I just want to get back into my own time though. And she's like, well, maybe you and I can get back into your time together. And Ash is like, all right, baby, hold up. That sounds groovy and all, but wasn't Phibia your man or something? He was, but the relationship wasn't going on nowhere. And I thought he was going to say something like, but aren't you in moaning to mean moaning just because it's Ash we're talking about here? And that silhouette perfectly indicates that she's in mourning. But hey, Ash, you're helping me get over it. Thank you. There you go. My man Ash, even something as half dead as her, she's still turning feelings onto him. And I love how they can depict a wisecracking Ash with a chainsaw hand, ready to take on all kinds of evil without blinking of an eye. But he still has a thing for the ladies when the opportunity presents itself. So as they're eating pie at Baroni's, the warlocks, Bishop is just pissed. I can't eat when I have a world to conquer. I'm just saying, bro, like, there's gotta be more. You're just going around melting people's brains. There's gotta be more to taking over the world than that. And Bishop quickly reminds him, you forgot about the days we were the bottom of the crews in the streets. Like, we were the bottom of the barrel. Now that's all going to change because we have this book. Now, you must instill fear that leaves our opponents unable to strategize. And then we crush them. And then we use this book. And then the guy's like, hey, I got a question to ask you. Are you going to eat that last slice? Because if you're not, I'm going to claim it. Sometimes I wish I should just do this alone. It's kind of funny, dude. And this book is highly entertaining. And, you know, I'm going to leave a little meat on the bone with it for you guys. Because there's some more plot twists here with the Panthers and why and what their plan is to let, or the half-dead that Ash is leading, fight the warlocks, take the book. So it's kind of like we're going to let them do the dirty work and we're going to come in for the easy kill, so to speak. But there's a whole lot more dialogue into it than that. A lot more story to it, and a hell of a cliffhanger that just leaves you wanting more. So, was this book good? Very good. I'll give it a 9 out of 10. Again, Ash's antics and romantic charms with Lilith does not take away the main squeeze or the story from the book at all. It just highlights who he is. It gives you nostalgic of who Ash is, at the same time pushing the story forward in a fun, creative way that's interesting, fun, and you will have a hell of a time reading this book. And if you do want to get a copy of Army of Darkness 1979 issue number 2, link in description, by the way. With that being said, after taking a drink of my coffee here, we begin this issue with the cliffhanger from the last issue where Ash Williams is thrown out the subway window from the Panther gang. Fortunately, it's not high enough where it'll make his body splatter, but it ain't low enough where he's not gonna feel any pain. He knows it, he anticipated. Lilith is like, no! Ash is like, oh yes, this is gonna hurt a lot. But he has no time to wallow in his pain. He has to get up because the Panther gang exits the subway and they're forming a straight line towards Ash and they got to kick his ass. So Lil is telling the gang, the half-day gang, come on, we gotta help Ash out. Well, maybe you didn't know this, girl, but we got our ass asses whooped. We ain't going out there. What? Lilith is pissed off. I thought we are family. If it was Phoebe out there, you guys would be out there standing in line waiting to serve a whipping, you know? You guys shouldn't call yourselves half-dead. You guys should call yourself cowards. What a way to shame them. Leader of the Panther gang says, "Best you stay down, boy." Ash pulls out a gun. He's like, "I guess nobody told you. Asphalt is horrible for the skin." Panther gang's like, "Whatever, dude. Just know we're taking you out for good." And Ash is like, "You know how many times I heard that, boy? Well, this is gonna be the last one. And whatever, dude. You're dead wrong." And blasts him, and the fight ensues. Lilith runs down the stairs, and she goes in and starts kicking ass with Ash and chainsaws and blood and guts. Tibia is like, "Okay, you know what? Maybe the leader had a point. Well, what if we get our butts kicked again?" It doesn't happen. It's not gonna happen. Because why? Because we are the half-deads. "Retreat!" The leader of the gang says. They're getting their butts whipped. Now the tables have turned. They all run away. And the Lilith's like, "Well, what took you so long?" "Well, we had to weigh out our options." So Ash kind of gets the group to calm down, regroup, what we're gonna do. And Lilith is not buying that Tibbs is like, "Well, you know, anything for the fearless leader, right?" BS! If it were our other leader, Phibbs will give you a beatdown for it. And Ash is like, "No time for that. We got a book to find." Well, Lilith is like, "Let's hit the Central Park then. That's where the Warlocks will be at this time." Meanwhile, we get news coverage reaching the police and city officials about the rising death toll from the Warlock rampage. Blood, guts, news coverage is blowing this up. The mayor is like, "We must get to the bottom. Whoever turned our beloved law enforcement officers to blood and meat pudding." It's kind of funny dialogue here. "I will not sleep until the perpetrators of this heinous crime are found and prosecuted." Now, then we get more news reporter coverage, and this lady says, "Because as long as these evil men are out there, any citizens of New York may find themselves as a puddle of meat on the lonely Big Apple Street." I don't know if that was intended to rhyme, but this is kind of funny. So media coverage is blown up. The leader of the Warlock gang is like, "Good, no one's safe. As long as we got this book, we will not be defeated." And his other members of the group are like, "Dude, I mean, okay, power is great, but it would be nice if we had like a nice pad, cars." I mean, when we originally started this gang, we just wanted to get into Studio 54 before the discotheque shut down. And other gangs were like, "We just want a block in South Bronx. We don't want the whole world." And this guy's getting pissed off, like, "How can you guys crave material possessions when world domination is within your grasp?" And they're like, "Well," the other team speaks up. They raise their hand. They're like, "We're done with this world conquering business." And the leader's like, "Oh, a united front, I see. The key to our reign of power is unity." And he turns these guys into meat pudding soup that, yeah, in other words, he made an example out of them. And the other crew members are like, "Yeah, boss, we love the smell of rotting flesh in the morning, right?" As the half-dads and Ash and Lilith are walking in Central Park, they're walking, they haven't seen any hint of the Warlocks. Tibbs is like, "Well, maybe we could get some shut-eye and start on this search later on." And Lilith tells Ash, "You know, Tibbs got a point. Maybe we should get some shut-eye. Even though we're close, let's get some shut-eye." But turns out they got bigger problems than the Warlocks. And it's this mama gang of the Miss Brady's. And she tells them, "Lovely night for a straw, half-deads. I'm Carol Brady, and we're about to ground you kids for the next week." And Ash thinks this is the funniest shit. Like, "Lady, do we look like kids to you? I mean, Marsha sakes, this is nuts." But what's even funnier about this is these guys know, the half-deads know, "Hey, man, I wouldn't talk to Miss Brady like this. She don't play. Come on, man, what you gonna do? You go your way, we go ours. What? You're disrespecting our authority?" So they come down with a vengeance with these meat roller pastries, and okay, that that meat cleaver is not a joke. But the frying pan to beat you with oven mitts, that's funny. And look at the other lady with the white diaper up the dress, Bonti. Okay, this is funny. And what's funnier is the half-dead gang wants to run away from this, and Ash is like, "What? I thought I was a leader." "You are the leader. But that Mrs. Brady, she don't play." And Mrs. Brady rolls up her sleeve, and she's got some guns on her. So she's like, "From where I'm standing, oh, you've been very bad boys." And they're like, "You gonna fight back and hit your mama?" And Ash is like, "I can't. I mean, fighting you is like fighting my mom. I can't fight you." And Lilith's like, "You better fight them, Ash, because they will hurt you. They'll kill us. Hitting her is like hitting dear old mom." "That's right, Ash. You won't hit dear old mama, would you?" So Ash's like, "Lilith, I don't know what to do." And so Lilith suggests use their weapons against him. He's like, "Oh yeah, great idea." He uses his chainsaw to disable the meat cleaver. Not the meat cleaver. He uses his chainsaw to disable the pastry roller. And after that, these mamas realize, you wouldn't dare shoot your dear mom, would you? And Ash just puts his gun up in the air, shoots, and they all run away. I guess he can go to prom after all. So after recouping and recovering, Lilith's like, I'm okay. But Lilith reminds Ash, until we find the warlocks, every crew will be out to take out whoever they cross, and that's including us. Well, battling people is one thing, it's colorful, but I can't take my eyes off the prize of the Necronomicon book. One of the crew members of the Half-Deads finds one of the Brady gang, and she's like, what happened to the rest of Mrs. Brace? So they interrogate her to find out the whereabouts of the warlocks. They find out the whereabouts of the warlocks, even though it's a funny moment where she's like, you won't question your old lady. Instead, wouldn't you boys like some nice, fluffy silver dollar pancakes? Ash is like, that sounds good. Focus, Ash, focus. Come on, talk. Where are the warlocks hanging out? So she tells them where they're held up. Lilith comes up with an ambitious plan that can go very left, very quick, or it can go very right in a slow amount of time, but it's their only option because they got the power of the Necronomicon book. I don't know how it's gonna go down, but I would got to say, this is a fun book. I love the humor in this book. I love the horror element in this book. And just because there's humor in it, it does not mean there isn't an exciting, unpredictable quest of this story going on here. There's some very good character development on what's going on here. What helps elevate this all fun out book is the art, the swagger, the attitude, and every panel has energy of movement. The character designs are just dripping with swag and coolness, and you'll dig this book. Link in description if you wish to purchase this book from RatedComics.com. With that being said, we begin this issue with the monologue by Ash, where he talks about his whole life has boiled down to one damn book. Not pro wrestling, archery, or muscle cars, you know, the important dude stuff, but a book called the Necronomicon. The Necronomicon has taken him through time, space, and a bunch of places he's never could have imagined. Ash has battled an ancient god in Mexico. He went toe-to-toe with Dracula, the Daughters of the Dragon. He saved President Obama from living on his retirement as a Deadite, and he even saved International Space Station. He asks you as the reader, you're probably wondering, how can one book have all that power? So we go back to a little touch-up of the history of the Necronomicon book. It was written by a bunch of evil magic dudes called the Dark Ones. But if you ask me, Ash, it's basically just a goofy book that somebody uses to send me all over the place. It contains potions, prophecies, a guide to demons and incantations that can resurrect the dead, and of course spawn time portals. And it can talk. It also can take the form of demon spawns, legion of Deadites, and awaken the Kandarian demon, the dude that started this whole Deadite mess. What would I give for a 2-car garage in the suburbs and a couple kids with a wife, the highest remote control, or makes me watch a Mxxxerfxxxers show? And then one of the guys from the zombie gang is like, who are you talking to, Ash? Who else? You mean the readers? Yeah, right, them. It's kind of a funny moment. Ash and his new gang, they're forming a plan. They're talking about Lilith and her trying to infiltrate the Warlock gang. And they suggest, well, maybe we should hide near their lair, so if they do something, we can pounce on because they're dangerous, they're bad. They got the Necronomicon book, right? And they're like, well, we could do that, but we could also mess up Lilith's undercover too, right? So Ash is like, so you gotta come up with the plan and come up with the counter plan. This is counterproductive right here. So then the new plan is, well, how about we cruise on the east side of New York for a few hours, then we decide to check on Lilith. So that's the plan. So we see Lilith talking to the leader of the Warlock, Bishop, and she's asking, why do you want to join our gang? And Lilith leads with, well, the Half-Deads are old news and you guys are the new kings and I want to be down with the winner. And that book gives you power greater than all the crews in New York put together. So the guy feeling his ego being stroked in more ways than one is like, of course you're correct. The Necronomicon book is the greatest weapon in the universe and it's under my command. So Lilith's like, okay, good, I'm in. Wait a minute, girl. I want to see if you're telling the truth. Perhaps you're attempting to infiltrate our ranks to cause mischief. And she is, but the book can detect her lies, so she puts her hand on the book and the book reads it and he goes into her memory. Like, you're right, the Deadites are attacking the Half-Dead. Your leader was killed by the Deadites. And that's what I was trying to tell you, right? So Lilith's like, so there, you see me now. Cool, this is cool. You know, she's only telling the half-truth and Bishop only went as far as to confirm her truth. He didn't go deeper than that, because if he did, he would have found out that Lilith was trying to infiltrate. So Bishop was like, okay, very interesting. You do bring a thought to mind. If I'm going to control the world, I will require a queen. And you, Lilith, you got some cake behind you. So yeah, I'm Bishop, future leader of the world, and your new king. And she's like, oh, great to meet you. So Ash and the gang, they're walking down New York, and Ash gets a little jungle fever, so to speak, because he hears Disco Studio 54 playing, and he's like, oh man, we got to get in and do this thing. I've got Saturday Night Fever, baby. Woo! Let's boogie. So clap, clap, keep dancing the dance floor, clap, clap, the booties are clap. All right, I'm stopping right there. I don't think disco goes down like that. I was feeling more like a Vegas vibe right there. So one of the dudes, one of the bros sees Ash dancing. These girls are just jiving with him, shaking, and this guy is just one tequila shot away from a motorboat action. And this dude's like, what? He's with our ladies? The warlocks have run everybody off the streets. Maybe he's part of the warlocks, and if he's in our club, I don't want this guy moving in on our women. Look at him doing the chicken donkey freaky deaky dance. We got to stop him. And then they confront Ash, like, fellas, what's going on? I try to tell him disco ain't nothing but trouble. They did, but disco ain't trouble. I mean, depends what kind of trouble you're looking for. And Ash's like, okay, if you want to boogie, let's boogie then. Disco Studio 54 fight erupts and it's action time. The roof disco ball falls down, and you can tell in here that the art from the artist has changed from this panel on previously, which I'm okay with. I mean, the story is more important to me. In this panel, we go back to how Bishop did a makeover for Lilith, and he's like, you're my queen now. It looks perfectly, and Lilith is looking really good on this one right here, considering the circumstances. So now what's next? And Bishop tells her, one by one, we will eliminate the gangs in New York. We've been told there's an impromptu meeting in the South Bronx. We're going to attend it. And that's one of the great virtues of the Necronomicon book is we could take shortcuts and just portal our way to it. So when they portal their way to the meeting, they just annihilate them with demons and the power of the Necronomicon book. Blood, guts, head decapitation, and this is just, it's not even, there's no point in all this. And Lilith's like, oh my god, is she seeing the power of this book right before her eyes? And Bishop's like, okay, just 50 or so more gangs to go, and you can tell it's kind of discomforting for her. So Ash goes with the crew after the riot at the Studio 54 discotheque, and they get some weapons to retrieve at their old warehouse to fight the Warlock gang. And now they're gonna make their move. They killed some time. They're gonna rescue Lilith. But the ending is the Warlocks found them before he could find them. And guess what? We eliminated the previous gang. Now we're eliminating you guys. You're next. And that's how we end Army of Darkness 1979. I mean, this issue kind of feels like a different departure from the other three issues, but the story was still fun. I still had a blast with it, and this is definitely worth adding to your comic book collection. Link in description, by the way. It was just fun. It was just a fun read. You get more Ash, you get more action, and you get a little bit of blood and guts and comedy that you expect with the Army of Darkness kind of comic book. With that being said, begin this issue in Yankee Stadium 1960. It's a flashback of Ash. When he was a kid, he loved the Yankees, but back then he would sneak in and grab a seat in the deep center field with the hope of catching a home run. As a kid, who couldn't relate to that if you know anything about baseball or ever been to a baseball game? One day, his wish was about to come true. A high-flying ball was heading his way, and it's funny how a scene can play out in your head a million times, but when reality hits, and it really hits hard, it's some drunk Big Lebowski that just stole his fly ball away. That was the last time he visited Yankee Stadium. And he considered becoming a Red Sox fan because it wasn't like the guy shot him or something. It was just he snatched his dream right out of thin air. Poor kid. And it's all been downhill from there ever since. And then we get in present time where Ash and the Half-Dead gang are fighting the Warlocks with the Necronomicon book, and they're getting their butts handed to them. And Lilith, who's infiltrated the Warlocks, but she has a role to play in her infiltration, tells Ash, this is the end. The Half-Deads tonight are about to call themselves the Full Deads. Lilith, what's going on? You know what the plan was. The Warlock gang leader is like, she's playing for the winning team, Ash. Wow, talk about so many ways to get burnt, you know? And he gets pushed and he's like, that hurts, dude. And Lilith's like, you know what they say. You only hurt the ones you love. Time to end this game. And the power of the Necronomicon book is just going to work on Ash. The Half-Deads are like, dude, should we save him now? I mean, he's our leader. Well, all we can do is just pray, right? Let's just pray. So it turns out right before the leader of the Warlock gang is like, dude, any last final words? And Ash has a rhetorical, funny response like, really? Last and final words for the whole 2 billion people to hear? I have to speak really loud, but I don't think it'll be loud enough, bro. Turns out their prayers were answered because in the distance, somebody calls out, Warlocks, come out and play. Who is that? And then the Warlock crew walks up to see what that disturbance is. And it's the other gangs of New York. We voted you, Bishop, and the Warlocks. You have to lead the Big Apple now. Man, bro, have you seen my power? And yet you still threaten me? Damn straight, we ain't no punks. We still threatening you. You can kill some of us, but you ain't gonna kill all of us. That one book is not gonna kill all of us. So what you gonna do? You wanna start rumbling or what? And Bishop's like, okay, your collective bravado is charming, but let's discuss one thing you've experienced. You have not experienced the full power of the Necronomicon book. And he unleashes hell upon them. I mean, literally, he unleashes hell upon them. So now it's the Deadite War, and all this action is going on, and it's just amazing to look at. It's fun to look at, it's colorful. The Deadite gangs pick up Ash after he's okay. He's like, all things considered, man, let's just get on with the fight, you know? Bishop, Lilith, they're all gone. They ran away. And they figured they let the Deadite gangs just do their thing with the other gangs, and they're going to work on it. But that's one thing Ash knows about is he came here to, get that book back so he can go back to his present time. And so in honor of one of his favorite comic book heroes, it's clobbering time. I like the reference there. And he goes to work with these Deadite gangs, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful mess. Shotgun, chainsaw, decapitation, limbs falling off, blood, guts, horror, funny. Yeah, that's right. And he never seems to run out of bullets with his shotgun, but at least they reference that in the comic book as to, hey, we're aware of that, but you know what? Don't even worry about the practicality of this all. Let's just have fun looking at all this mess that's going on. And they obviously shoehorned a lot of references here, which I'm okay with. I mean, overall, the story is fine. But the shoehorning references, I mean, it'll be funnier and better if they let it play out naturally. That's just my personal opinion. But hey, I'm just here to have a good time with this issue. And Army of Darkness, Evil Dead, when it comes to Ash, you don't take this comic book too seriously. You just want a good time when you're reading it. So at the end of the final, they all work together. The other gangs, not the Deadites, and the Half-Deads, they all put together to form a truce. Like, all right, you know what? We got to stop Bishop here. So let's all work together. You cool in my book. Let's get to it, all right? So they handshake on it. And I enjoy the backstory here with how Bishop came across the power of the Necronomicon book. He remembers the night he received the book. It was a night after a righteous beatdown of the two Brooklyn Dodgers, and he shows a beatdown to these baseball guys. I guess they lost a bet or something like that. And the Dark Ones entrusted him with it in hopes that he could control the world and they would be his ruler. Returning to being just another knockaround cat on the streets ain't cool with him. So he has to defeat Ash and the other gangs, and he can do that with the power of this Necronomicon book. But guess what? Ash knows more about the book than he does, I imagine. So when Lilith comes up to him like, hey, baby, you all right? All things considered? Yeah, let me in your head. What's going on? Bishop tells Lilith, well, you know what? You, my dear, may be a traitor. So he puts his hand on her wrist, and he's like, only one can wonder what was in that note when you slipped to Ash in the beginning. I did not notice the sleight of hand in the beginning of this issue, but hey, I guess it was there. It was there, and there's an indication that she did slip a note. So it'll be pleasure torturing you, Lilith, until you talk. And she just does a gangster move like, no need. I gave him the address to this place. Knock, knock, knock. Buzz, the chainsaw gets to work. Sounds like Daddy's home. All right, warlocks assemble. I have to assume that's an Avengers reference right there. How can you not? That was not as shoehorned, but I dig it though. We show them no mercy. Let's boogie. Ash and the other gang. It looks like the Brooklyn Dodgers are there too, and they go to work on the gang. Work. Fight. And, like in Mortal Kombat mode, finish him. Ash does finish Bishop. And the Necronomicon book gets, zapped into the time portal. And Bishop's like, look, without that book, without that power, perhaps we can work out some kind of deal. Ain't no deal to work out. So once it's all over with, Lilith goes back to her normal outfit. She looking good too. Well, you saved the day, Ash. I guess we could say that. Yeah, I did save the day. But for some reason, don't get all tied up from me, because I don't get to hang around for places for too long. I get it. You explained that to me in the beginning. But is there anything you like to do before you leave the big city of dreams? And it turns out Ash does have one thing. And there is a callback at the end of this book which ties to the beginning of this issue about his dreams coming true and finally catching a home run baseball at the Yankee game. My personal opinion about the Army of Darkness 1979, the full issue, is it's a solid entry that wraps up a thoroughly entertaining mashup. And in this awesome package, you do notice the change in artist from issue 4 onto this. And personally, I found the original artist that did the art in issues 1 through 3 a little bit more charming, a little bit funner to read. This art seems more practical. It just seems like it lost his luster in my opinion. But overall, the story is not bad at all. I mean, do I feel like the references and the shoehorns in issue number 5 were shoehorned and forced? Some were. But overall, great story, fun read. You'll definitely have a fun time reading this, and I personally recommend this to add to your comic book collection just for the sheer fun and allure of it. It's Ash. How can you go wrong with Ash? horror and comedy and action, that element, they mix it up just right. With that being said, Army of Darkness, 1979, issue number 5, or in that case, issue number 1 through 5. What you guys think of the comic book or the full story? Comment below, let me know. And also, if you like the content we're throwing up, you know what to do. Don't be shy and don't be stingy. Here at Rated Comics, we do awesome comic book reviews, comic book related content with the occasional comic book giveaway. Thanks again for watching. Until next time.